Alright, so The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, Middle-earth, everything. I'm a very big fan. I've read The Hobbit. This is my copy. I think it's pretty cool. It has Gandalf walking up to Bilbo. I'm not going to get into how the cover was mutilated like this. At least not today, for the sake of time. I've also read the Lord of the Rings books. They're very good. They're also very different from the movies, and I'm not going to compare them, at least now, because they're their own different works of art from the amazing Lord of the Rings movies. So, I also have the Silmarillion book. I have not read it yet, but I am planning to soon. A man I know has read the Lord of the Rings. He's a very big fan. He says he didn't think the Silmarillion was that good, but I'll see when I start it. And so let's get on with the video. This is my ranking of each Middle-earth movie, all 6 of them. So that'd be the 3 Hobbit movies and the 3 Lord of the Rings movies. And I am not ranking them separately, like they're together, but I'll get into that later. So here we go. Coming in at number 6, we have The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. So at the number 6 spot, we have The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. And by all means, this is not a bad movie. I am here, I will say I do like the Hobbit trilogy. I know a lot of people don't, but I mean, what can you expect coming off the Lord of the Rings trilogy? How can it be that good? I think they're good prequels, and I'll most likely do a whole new video of my defense of the Hobbit series. And so, here at my least favorite is The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. Smaug, or Smog. I call him Smog. Anyways, this movie is, I know, according to critics, apparently the best, but it's actually my least favorite of all 6 of these movies. I like it, it's just, it doesn't really connect with me as the others do. I think it's got some slow moments, it's kind of boring, and I've seen it the least of all the movies, so that's kind of a problem. But anyways, it's my least favorite. It's a good movie. It's just not as good as the next movies on this list. Here at number 5, we've got The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. At number 5 on this list, we have The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. And this is not a bad movie either. It's just lower on the ranking because these other movies are so great. And I know this is most people's least favorite, but I think it's better than The Desolation of Smaug because of all 6 Middle-earth movies, this one, I have a connection to this one because I'd seen part of The Desolation of Smaug, part of An Unexpected Journey, but I'd never sat down and watched a full Hobbit or Lord of the Rings movie, and this was the first one that I ever did. I didn't know much of what was going on. I just knew that they were at war and stuff. And so I have a connection with this one, but that's not the whole reason why I like this one more than my number 6. I think this one has a lot of very cool action scenes, and I know it's a lot of action and that can get very boring because there's so much action, but I think it's really cool, and I like seeing these characters, and I thought this is something I think was really cool. They do part of this in Desolation of Smaug, I just forgot to mention it. They have the part where Gandalf goes and tries finding out about the Necromancer, and it turns out the Necromancer is actually Sauron. After I read the Hobbit book and I made that connection, my mind was blown. I was like, whoa, the Necromancer Sauron, that's really cool. And I think that's cool that they show that in the movie, where they did not do that in the Hobbit book, because the movies had to stretch everything out. And yeah. Funny thing, there are no orcs in this entire book. Whenever there is something that you would call orcs, they go by goblins in this book. So there are no orcs in this book. That's crazy. Yeah, Battle of Five Armies, it's good. I like how it ends. Yeah. So here we go. Next up is... Alright, here at number 4 we have The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey. Yes, another Hobbit movie. Another Hobbit movie. You may be asking, I thought this was the all six movies ranking. Why hasn't Lord of the Rings appeared yet? Well, it's because the Lord of the Rings movies are all three better than all three Hobbit movies. Even though, as I've stated multiple times, the Hobbit movies are pretty good movies. And so this is the last of the Hobbit movies on this list, as there are only 3. And after this, we'll be getting to the Lord of the Rings. But first up, I'm going to talk about why I like An Unexpected Journey. Well, An Unexpected Journey is a very good movie. I like how, I just like it. Yeah, it's a very good movie. I do like the adventure part of it, how they're going through locations. One reason why I love the Fellowship of the Ring. I like how they're all going through these locations. And then I like Bilbo and Gollum's riddle game. And it's also cool how the climax of this movie is the part in this book where they're in the trees and they're like those wolves and the eagles save them. And I think they made that scene really cool in the movies, which it was a good scene in this book too. Yeah, now let's get on with the next movie. So here we go. At number 3, we have The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. Alright, let's get into where it starts getting really good. The Lord of the Rings movies are masterpieces. They are extremely good. My number one... Never mind. The Two Towers is my least favorite of the 3 of the Lord of the Rings, because it has some slow moments. I think it can be kind of slow, but it's all worth it for the final battle of Helm's Deep in this movie. And I understand why it's not as good as The Fellowship of the Ring or The Return of the King. It has to be the bridge between the 2 movies to connect them together, to set up for the final battle and the beginning of the story. Overall, The Two Towers is a very good movie. The Hobbits are good movies, but they're nothing compared to The Lord of the Rings. And now, coming in strong at number 2, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. Now here at number 2 is The Return of the King. This is an amazing, amazing movie. It's so good. The ending is sad. It makes me cry. So if you know the names of these movies, by now you already know what my first choice is going to be. But I don't want you to dismiss this one in anticipation for my first pick, because The Return of the King is it's a masterpiece. It has great action scenes. The climax is so good. The music is so good. The Ride of the Rohirrim is an amazing scene. So this movie is very epic. I think the ending, it wraps it up great. And some people complain about how there's too many endings. I actually think that's a great thing, because I don't want it to end. I wanted the movie to just keep going. And I know this took out probably my favorite part of the Return of the King book, the Scouring of the Shire. That part is not in this movie, but I understand why it's not. They just had this great battle, and never mind. Anyways, this is an amazing movie, so go watch it and get ready for my first pick because it's a masterpiece. And here we have the best of all the Middle-earth movies, and yes, the best movie ever. The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. The Fellowship of the Ring. This is my favorite movie ever. This movie is just so good. I know many people's favorites is The Return of the King, and I can see why, but this one, for me, is unbeatable. The music, the Shire, the locations, the action, the acting, it's just so good. Gandalf versus the Balrog, that scene is so awesome. The final fight scene at, I forgot the name of the location, but the tension is high in that scene. This movie is so good. The Shire is it just feels like home, especially with the song Concerning Hobbits. That song just makes you feel a sense of nostalgia. I love this movie so much. I watch it over and over, and I never get bored of it. It's a very good movie. I recommend it. Sorry. This movie is so good, and if you haven't watched any of the Lord of the Rings movies, go ahead, give it a try. I recommend you start with the Lord of the Rings movies first, because if you start with The Hobbit, you might be a little confused about what the world of Middle-earth is, even though the Hobbit movies do take place first. You don't need to see them to watch the Lord of the Rings movies, though, as they are prequels. But this movie is just so good. I know they took out the part with Tom Bombadil, and I think that worked perfectly for the movies. In the book, when I was reading the part with Tom Bombadil, I remember being bored. Looking back on it now, I think it's awesome. But while I was reading out, I remember being bored. But that is a very good part. And if they had put it in the movies, though, I think it kind of would have messed up the tone of the movies. So that was a smart choice from Peter Jackson by not putting that scene in the movie. And this movie is nearly 20 years old now, and it looks better than many movies today. It is better than every movie today, but it looks better than many movies today. Anyways, I love The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. I might give my opinion, make a full video on the books one day. I'm going to do a Defense Against the Hobbit trilogy video one day. I don't know when, but yeah, I totally recommend all these movies on this list. And goodbye.